Good evening and welcome to this week in review. Tonight's stories include students from Burnt Islands visit BBS, Sea Cadet annual inspection, the BDDB report. These stories plus community events, the BBS playbill, off the rack and more coming up after this.
Your assignment today is very simple. Make this earth as beautiful as possible. Any questions?
Does
anyone know where Lisa is?
Yeah, I do.
Do a good turn for the earth from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
On Monday of this week, 10 students from Burnt Islands visited Burgeo. These 10 students are a part of the Community Youth Network and sharing our future programs. They were very interested in how Burgeo Broadcasting operated. Their community does have a community channel, but they don't have any programming. When they arrived in our studio on Monday afternoon, they were prepared for a forum on how Burnt Island and Burgeo are the same and how are they different. The young men and women did the camera work in front of and behind the camera. Others did switching, sound, and producing. Our own BBS volunteers will be doing the editing. The Burnt Island students also took part in 2 episodes of Pansy's Garden, on camera and behind the scenes. These 2 young men sang a couple of songs for our upcoming bandwagon. Needless to say, they were very impressed with our studio and programs. They went home with lots of ideas and enthusiasm to start their own programs. We wish them every success. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. The Calder Healthcare Center has set up a display in honor of the event. The Education Committee at the Calder Healthcare Center, along with the Mental Health Counselor, has set up a display on mental health issues. Some of the pamphlets include schizophrenia, mental health and work, youth and mental health, coping with unemployment, mental illness in the family, children and depression. The booklets include Depression, There's Hope and Help, What Everyone Should Know About Stress, Anxiety Disorder. Maybe some of these leaflets will interest you. Humor Soothes the Way, 10 Tips for Combating Stress and Stress-Free. The Mental Health Counselor, Kathy Cutler, has other activities planned for the month. Feel free to drop by the main lobby of the hospital and pick up some of this information. The Burgeo Volunteer Fire Department needs your help. The fire department has an opening for more firefighters. If you are looking for something to do with your time, this is a very worthwhile cause. The fire department offers training for all their volunteers in many different areas. For example, Jaws of Life training, breathing apparatus, and much, much more. You have to be 19 years of age to apply. If you are interested, you may pick up an application form from the town hall or contact Glen Ann. Please consider volunteering for one of the most important groups in our town. You won't be disappointed. Stay tuned for more of This Week in Review coming up after this.
The little things you do that you think are small and few are the things that mean the most to me. So just keep giving whatever you're giving, 'cause even when you're giving just a little,
if you're doing just a little, you're helping a lot.
it helps a lot.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
It helps a lot.
Greg Ear stopped by our studio on Thursday of this week for his regular monthly report. We have with us in our studio Greg Hilliard, our BDDB officer. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you for having me again this month.
Oh, you're more than welcome to join us as usual. Lots on our agenda, so let's start off with the Sea Urchin Project.
Yeah, as residents of the community know, for the last year we've been working with a local proponent and of course a harvester to try and move this the sea urchin industry forward. We did a resource identification program last summer, and of course into the fall and winter there was some harvesting done and shipped out, of course, to a number of different industry partners for for the processing and, of course, shipment to market. Our goal has been, of course, as I stated previously, that we want to acquire a facility in this community, obtain a license, and do the primary processing here in Burgeo. And I'm pleased to say that just recently I got off the phone with representatives of Seafreeze, and we're now in the process of putting together a draft lease agreement for the use of their sea urchin license to be used at another facility within the community, and we're hoping that by the 25th of this month that the lease will be approved by all parties, and we'll be able to move on to our next step, which will be trying to secure the necessary funds to develop the facility we've identified, and our goal, of course, is to begin processing October 1 of this year.
Wow, that's a major hurdle that you've come to starting to get all
Certainly
straightened out.
Certainly is. We started
Yeah.
actually trying to acquire some type of license last September.
Yeah.
And as a lot of people know, when you're dealing with a number of players and a number of major provincial issues which are all of a policy nature, it's just not that easy to change things. So, I mean, we've walked through this process, and to be quite honest, we feel right now that our goal of operating a primary processing sea urchin facility here in October is much more realistic adventure at this point in time, and certainly a major hurdle has been overcome.
Good job, yeah. Now, you got lots of interesting things done this one. Shall we start with the yachting proposal?
Yeah, over the course of the last year and a half, or I guess since I've been here, I've noticed a major amount of yachting traffic, if you want to come along the south coast. A friend of mine who operates out of the Costa Bay, the Harbour Breton area, is involved directly in the tourism association down there. We've managed over the course of the last little time to have a number of conversations on this issue, and kind of saying, there's yachts coming up and down the south coast. I mean, what economic benefit is it? What amenities do they need? What economic spin-offs can we expect to get from this type of an industry? And what are we really missing? Because some communities have had upwards of over 200 yachts in their harbors, and yet other communities haven't had anything. So what we've proposed to do is enter into a partnership with the Schooner Zone, the Costa Bay Zone, Marine Mountain Zone, and their own, and the BDDB would be the name of applicant, and we've drafted a proposal on that right now, that we're applying to ACOA to get a study done on the yachting industry along the south coast, and basically do a full-blown study to see what we're missing in terms of economic benefits of this industry, what amenities should be put in place at various strategic locations along the south coast to keep the yachting traffic in the region, and therefore spending more money, spending more time, and of course enhancing the economic benefits as far as the tourism sector goes in that area of the industry. The other aspect we're looking at, and I was told this, I think, the first month that I was here, that it was a crime that somebody couldn't get on a boat, let's say in Terrenceville or in Port-aux-Basques, and actually do the whole south coast in about a week. And the way, as you're well aware, the ferry schedule is now, it would roughly take somebody about 2 weeks to actually accomplish that feat, and have to stay overnight in a whole bunch of places for a extended period of time to wait for another ferry. So as part of this whole initiative, we're actually doing a preliminary investigation into the potential operation of a South Coast cruise ship.
Okay.
And part of it as well is going to be looking, evaluating, a preliminary evaluation of the overall existing ferry service, and see if in fact that if we can put a cruise ship, or it doesn't look like it's economically viable to put a cruise ship on the South Coast, can we somehow utilize the existing ferry services that are here to be able to time in during the summer months to do two things. Number one, still continue to provide a major service to the communities, because that's what it's there for originally, but yet coordinated in such a way that people could actually do a South Coast trip using the ferry service in about a week, and trying to coordinate a schedule whereby the major, if you want tourist season, the peak time of the year, the ferry schedule might be readjusted a little bit to accommodate those two major goals at the same time. So we're certainly very excited about trying to do something like that, and at the end of the day, if it looks economically viable, I mean, you never know, we might attract a cruise ship operator along the South Coast for the peak season. And of course as well, we certainly hope that we can attract a lot more yachts to come along the South Coast, because it is getting to be a major player here, and we've noticed a major increase.
Well, last summer, actually, Terry and I had an opportunity to meet a couple from Sweden. And he just picked them up. They were in on the Burgeo Road, coming down. They had gotten a ride in, but they didn't have a ride back. and they wanted to go in and see Cornerbrook and those places. So he gave them a ride back, and they got every intention of coming back here again this year.
Yeah. And these are the kinds of services that we need to identify, you know, and of course if we can get them to tie their yachts up in Burgeo, yes, they're going to get around the community, much like you said. They probably want to get up to Cornerbrook and Steenville, and that's fine too.
They just wanted, like, they didn't want to spend any time there, but they just wanted to go and see where it was in relation to Burgeo, and they heard people talking about the Burgeo Road and, you know, how desolate it is, and they wanted to see Caribou, and he said, well, you know, they really didn't have time to see Caribou because they were gone before, you know, well, you know how it is when you're driving, somebody got a purpose in mind, right?
Yeah.
But they got every intention of coming back, and they invited us down on their boat, and we had a chat and talking about this and that. So that's the type of thing that this particular couple wanted to do, was to talk to us about our generation and how we feel living in a community like this and their community and that type of thing, right? It was very interesting what they had to say.
Yeah, and I think we can attract a lot more. I think we're really excused upon missing the boat on this one.
Yep.
And if we let it just go stagnant, then we're actually going to,
Yeah.
the yachting community will wind up going other places where there's amenities and whatnot and just bypass us altogether, right? So hopefully,
anyway,
hopefully something will come out of it in the next few months. We're hoping that by the end of July, we'll actually have a consultant hired and the study begin.
It certainly sounds like a really good idea. Okay, we got Bridging the Gap.
Yeah, this program, we've been invited to get involved in. Originally, it was developed through the Random North Development Association, which is located in around the Clarenville area. What they did is they actually matched education and employment together. And what they did is they did a pilot project last year whereby they identified various individuals in the community, a local industry that potentially were looking for skilled employees to expand their business. And what they did is they put a program together whereby these individuals received educational training, which means certification at the end, as well as they had job-related functions within the company. And the whole idea was to actually make them more employable through the addition of educational skills development. And that pilot project proved very successful, that everybody that was involved in Random North in that project actually wound up getting employed by the company they worked with in Catalina. And to this day, each one of those individuals are fully employed and working within that company. So the pilot was so successful that we were approached of one of 4 different zones to be involved and to see if we were interested in getting involved with Bridging the Gap. So of course we had a quick evaluation. I've been on a number of conference calls now with the people from Random North, and I think it could very well be both not only an employment generator, but certainly skills development in terms of education and whatnot. A lot of the skills that individuals will learn would be centered around the existing business that they would be involved in. But we do have 1 or 2 companies here that could potentially look at expanding in the next year or 2, and when you expand, you need employees. And if we can match educational skills with business needs in terms of training, the two go hand in hand, and it makes it that much easier to expand and develop your business. The company in Catalina, as a matter of fact, they got involved in this initiative, wrote back just this past week to the sponsor and told them that even though they expanded their company, their productivity overall went up 20%. And when you're expanding, everybody knows things have a tendency to drop off a little bit because it's all new and different. And when you get expansion and all of a sudden you're increasing productivity at the same time, it just goes to show that this type of project certainly could very well work. So it's a twofold thing. Number one, you educate people into new skills and whatnot, new certification, and then you provide it to a business or employer that'll potentially expand, and hopefully these people at the end of the day will work out whereby they'll have full-time employment at the end of the program. Okay. So we're working in conjunction with those people. We're hoping that over the course of the summer we'll have our preliminary applications and the company that we want to work with identified, and hopefully in the fall we're looking at advertising for participants to become involved with the program. We're probably talking maybe 10, 15 people at this point in time. And it's good. When we mean employed, these individuals actually get paid to go to school as well as go to work. Okay. So it's a combination of a work education experience, and plus it'll be they'll receive monetary remuneration for being involved in the program at the same time.
Well, sounds very promising.
Yeah, it should be interesting. it's a program that really looked very enticing to us and our board.
So is it recently that you've found out about this?
It's only about the last month or so, so we've been doing a lot of
Okay, yeah.
research and whatnot into it, and I just very briefly brought it up to the board at our last meeting, and of course right now I'm starting to touch bases with different players in the educational field, and of course determining what in fact which business opportunity might be more viable for these people at the end of the day.
Okay. Well, the SWAS students.
Yeah, we've, like a lot of businesses and whatnot within the community, we applied for a number of student programs, the summer career placement, which should be announced, by the way, in the very near future, and the SWAS program, a green team, and one or two others. And we were fortunate enough right now, the BDDB, to get a SWAS program this year. And I just wanted to let the public know that we identified Rhonda Green as the individual. And Rhonda worked with us last year on another program. She meets the criteria, if you want, for the SWAS program, which is totally different than summer career in a sense.
Yes.
And you know, fits all the bills. And Rhonda will actually be starting with us full time for about an 8-week period beginning June the 11th. So we're very excited to have her back again, because it's certainly an asset to have a nice young person around. She did finish her community development at Stephenville this past year, so she not only brings her experience working with us before, but now she has a full educational background for us to better utilize her expertise and knowledge, and of course her youthfulness. So that's a benefit to us. So we're looking forward to having that this summer.
You're very fortunate to have her. And
Yeah.
I'm prejudiced, by the way. She was one of my volunteers, so I'm very prejudiced.
Right on. Yeah.
Linkage program.
Yeah, it's another program that's similar to Bridging the Gap. The Bridging the Gap program is mainly, and I forgot to mention this, for actually adults roughly, you know, their mid-20s to whatever age. The Linkages program is really for youth ages about 18 to about 23. And it identifies individuals that are either at high risk presently in school, that are not really attaining the levels through the educational process that they could be, or just doesn't lack the interest to really be involved, or individuals that have graduated from school and are kind of just sitting at home in limbo, wondering what am I going to do? And we've all heard tell of the high school graduate who says, I don't know if I want to go to university, go to college, do this, do that, and kind of just sits in limbo at home or wherever, and not really sure. So this program actually provides the opportunity. Again, it's for employment. It's a combination of an educational process, skills development process, including employment. And what we wind up doing, instead of looking with Bridging the Gap, we look at one major employer. And in this situation, we identify the participants, determine what their interests are. It could be in secretarial, it could be mechanical skills, photography, accounting. And then what we try to do is match that individual up with the interest they have and a local business.
Okay.
And they spend so many hours a week working with the local business, assisting them and getting to know. Basically, it's like a career placement type of setup. And again, it is employment, so therefore they receive financial remuneration for their efforts. And throughout the week, there's a certain period of time set aside for individual and group skills training, as well as career development. And one of the main focus points is because these individuals are kind of, if you want, have fallen between the cracks and they don't know where to go, there's so much time a week set aside for what they call the development of a career plan. So once they get into the program, they decide, well, gee, I'm interested in mechanics. Now, if an individual wants to become a mechanic, what are the steps that they need to take, and where do they need to go to fulfill their goal of becoming a mechanic? Yeah. So literally, they're setting up a whole career plan, identifying the educational institution they need to go to, the time, the funding sources. You really put a whole plan of action in place of how these people are going to attain their goal. And of course, the other beauty about it is that, let's say an individual comes in and we put them into a garage and work with a mechanic, and a month later, again, this is not my cup of tea. Then we take that person out there and say, thank you very much for your assistance. However, what do you think you'd like to try now? So it's an opportunity for an individual to experiment with a number of different career fields, and at the end of the day, hopefully they'll find something that'll match with their likes and wants, and then of course they move on with their career plan from there. So it's certainly, and of course we do things like skills development in terms of not necessarily formal school education. They need to know, however, certainly the education levels they need to enter into post-secondary education, whether it's university, vocational school, whatever, the trades. They will actually be able to get certain skills. So we don't actually teach courses per se, but we do a skills program like leadership development, time management,
Okay.
those types
Yeah.
of things that actually enable tangible things that the individual, that when they're in the school setting trying to do the ABCs, we'll call it, and they just are not interested, we try to give them the practical side of the educational experience and skills development. So we're hoping to initiate that within the region of the South Coast with the 4 communities, and hopefully we'll have that starting up sometime in September, because we want to do in partnership with the schools. Obviously the schools can identify better than us as a board who is out there and who might be well suited to this, and it'll be probably October by the time we actually physically put it in place. So we're excited about that one as well.
Wow, that is a nice proposal, especially like you said, for somebody who doesn't know for sure where they want to go, and that is a very difficult question for a 17 or 18-year-old. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? That's phenomenal.
It really is too, especially in the day and age. You know, you get to the point where a lot of youth are determined, do I really want to stay in my hometown? Gee, if I get educated, is there anything do I come back for? When I get educated, do I have to leave? And there's so many more possibilities today than there was years ago. And that's a good thing in one sense.
Yes.
It can be very confusing, you know, for somebody coming out of school 17, 18 years old as well. And I know I've had 2 go through it, and they bounce around from grade 9 to grade 12 wondering exactly where they're going to go and what they're going to do.
Yeah, I got 2 coming right out now, one beyond the other. And one of them pretty much got their mind made up, but the other one is just like you said, just like bouncing around. They really don't know. And again, what do you expect a 15-year-old to know what he wants to do with the rest of his life? Unless, now not saying that a lot of them does know, and they're working to obtain that goal, and they're sure of what they want to do, but it's not everybody who's in that boat.
No, that's right, exactly. And this is a program that certainly helps move things forward.
Which is a good thing. Okay, now were you at a meeting with Minister Parsons?
Yeah, we did. A number of weeks ago, we had the opportunity to meet with the minister, representatives of the BDDB, and myself. And we had 3 or 4 different issues on the table, such as the greenhouse. Obviously, we're trying to move that into the pre-commercial stage, and things are moving along, not necessarily as fast as we'd like in that area, but they're moving, and I'm sure we'll see some progress within the next little while. The Sea Urchin Initiative, of course, and the various issues related to how government could assist us. And one of the things we actually brought up on the table was short-term projects. We had a number of individuals that actually contacted our office in need of 1, 2, or 3 weeks worth of work to become EI eligible. And so we said, well, even though as much as we don't like the short-term make-work stuff at times because it creates a lot of different scenarios for us, we felt, well, there was a segment of people there that only needed that. So we approached our MHA, and we had a discussion on that issue, and we were told at that time that due to various circumstances that this year the provincial government will not become involved in any short-term job creation projects this fall like they have been in the past. So I thought the general public should be aware of that, because I know for the last number of years the province has been involved in the program. And from our meeting with the minister, you know, our MHA, he stated that at this point in time the province initially did have some monies earmarked to do it, but because of certain circumstances it appears right now that come this fall there will not be any projects of that nature unveiled through the provincial government. So again, it's more of a heads up for the people in the community who you know, say, well, you know, I might be able to get extra 3 or 4 weeks work and be eligible through these you know, programs that have been ongoing for a number of years. It looks like this year that that's not the case.
So they're not going to have that to fall back on?
Yeah, unfortunately that pot of money is not available this year due to various other budgetary restraints and whatnot within the provincial government. So
oh boy. Okay.
But hopefully we'll have things like sea urchins and greenhouses.
Oh, well, there's positive stuff and bridging the gap and all those things.
Exactly. There's things that you know, hopefully of a long-term nature. And of course, I think a lot of people know my philosophy. Yes, there's nothing wrong. People need the immediate needs of short-term projects, and you hope the projects are beneficial in the community. But really, in lots of cases, it doesn't really provide people with meaningful work, and it's only a stopgap. People it's like a revolving door. They're going to turn around 52 weeks time, wondering where they're going again. You know, and I think our focus has been, boy, if we can provide people will albeit seasonal, at least it'll be sustainable, meaningful employment that they can probably look forward to on an annual basis, and not have to go to PEI or Nova Scotia every year to work for minimum wage or less at times.
Well, that's what we want, anyway, for have full-time employment for many of our residents.
That's for sure.
Now, on to a happier note, the Irish tour.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this a couple of times, or a couple of interviews ago, that You know, the Irish students were coming again this year. We've got the dates set. They're roughly going to be in the Burgeo Ramy area from the 17th of June until the 23rd, which will be a 7-day period. This year we've increased the numbers, or we've had them increased on us to, there'll be a total of 16, I think it is altogether, or 15, sorry. There's 8 females and 7 males. Again, we're going to split them up into 2 groups, and we're going to do what we did, similar to what we did last year, switch from Ramy to Burgeo back and forth. And I guess I'm just putting the appeal out now to the public. As you're well aware, last year we asked for billets, and we're fortunate enough to get them for the 6 individuals that came down here. And I think the people that had them certainly had a good experience. So I guess I'm just putting the word out to the residents of the community that that is the dates right now. One group, there'll be all females in, and the next group for the other 3-day period, there'll be males. We are putting out a plea for billets. And certainly we'd love to see the community's, you know, support in terms of this initiative. It's not only a good educational experience, what we found for the youth coming from Ireland, it certainly heightens awareness of the Burgeo Southwest Coast area. They do get involved in community economic development initiatives when they're here, so they actually put something back into it. And of course, it's an opportunity for us to learn things off them. And it was certainly a good experience, I think, for everybody overall last year. And by their signifying that this year they want all of the participants to come down here for that period of time, I guess it just proves how worthwhile the experience was last year when they came down.
So we're talking what age group?
We're talking roughly between the ages of 18 to about 23, 24 this year.
Okay.
I know we had 1 or 2 last year that were a little bit older, and that kind of threw us off a little bit, but they really fit in well, and you couldn't tell, you know, that you were dealing with an older adult per se, if you know what I mean.
Just a note from last year's tour. I was telling some of our young people that we had students from Ireland here, and they would like an opportunity to meet with them, if possible. If that's, I know they're here with a specific plan in mind, but that when they found out that there were students from Ireland, they were kind of disappointed that they didn't get a chance to interact with them. So I don't know if that's possible within their schedule, that we could plan something as a community to get our young folks together. I don't know. Yeah,
and that's something, right now we haven't really gone into the itinerary for this year. We know we're going to do things somewhat differently than last year.
Yeah.
And that certainly could be very easy to set up, whether it be the community center, the fire hall. I'm sure we can find a place in town to kind of have an intermingled activities, right? And I think it's nothing but a positive as well, the opportunity to do that. But our main focus point right now is to see if we can get the billets first and be able to house these people. And if we can't do that, then obviously we're going to have to either look at some alternatives or say, sorry, we just can't accommodate you at this point in time. But certainly, Marie, you know, when the time gets close and we know, I mean, by all means, the people that might be interested when we're doing the itinerary of what their schedule is going to be, we can certainly fit something like that in. Not a major issue whatsoever. And I agree. The whole premise behind this is the interaction and the activity. And I really think that was one of the big focal points, of the selling points, if you want to be in here last year, is that the youth that came down had a chance to stay in people's home and interacting with other youth.
Which was good.
That opportunity, you know, to see the lifestyle and that.
Yeah.
I think that was a major part of it.
I spoke to them at the motel, and which was good. And a lot of people saw the interview on the community channel, and several of the young people came up and said, well, I would have liked to had an opportunity to speak with them. Can you imagine living in a place like they live, like they're associating with the you know, the racial tensions and violent tensions that's there. So, like, they were pretty eager to talk to them about how their lives, you know, cope with that type of thing from being a teenager. Because, I mean, in our community, we do take lots for granted. And they just wondered, like, one young man said to me, well, you know, that would have been really cool to talk to those, and he's probably right.
And you're right, too. You know, youth have a good perspective on it, because, you know, no matter how bad you might think it is where you're to, there's always certainly somebody worse off somewhere else.
Worse off, that's right,
exactly. No doubt about it.
And I understand we have a cruise ship coming.
Yep, next, well, this Tuesday coming, actually, the 22nd. We just got confirmed that they'll be in Burgeo from 2 p.m. in the afternoon till 5 p.m. We do have a schedule of activities set up, and matter of fact, we have a number of volunteers who are going to take the time out to act as hosts and hostesses for these visitors to the community. From my understanding, talking to people, this is actually the first official cruise ship to ever come in the community, so we're excited about that. And I guess we're hoping that if we put our best foot forward right now and and we'll receive the fruits of our labor later on down the road when we can attract more cruise ships into here. There is definitely a niche market in that area, and I think if you look along the south coast, there's only so many places that they can pull in and stop and visit, and hopefully Burgeo can become one of those destination points. So we're planning things such as a tour of the museum, Maiden Tea Hill to give them a good panoramic view of the community and highlight a number of different geographical significant areas, and of course see Ramia. And of course we're planning to take them up to Sandbanks Park and of course do the traditional mug up with a little bit of entertainment mixed in, and then like I say, 3 hours goes pretty fast, but we're hoping if we can cover those bases. And we're hoping the weather is going to be good. We've got some preliminary plans in place. If we have inclement weather, we will do things, albeit more catered towards indoor activities, but we certainly want to get them off the vessel and try and get them around the community and show them what we've got to offer. And of course, we feel really three of our biggest icons are the provincial park. There's no doubt about that. Maiden Tea Hill is a fantastic viewpoint, and of course the museum has a wealth of things to offer if you're looking for the historical point of view of the community and the region. Okay. So that's the plan now, and then we have luckily we've again our tourism committee has been playing a major active role in preparing this whole thing, and that just goes to show the benefits of having a volunteer organization that we can call upon to assist in trying to move this thing forward. So it's great to have that organization in place.
So is there a particular place that those people on the cruise ship are from, or are they from all over?
We don't really know, to be quite honest with you, where they're from. I've got a feeling there's probably some people from different magazines related to cruise shipping and that kind of stuff, because they are trying to promote the South Coast. This is actually the first time this ship has been down here, and it's really like an experimental trip just to see how things might unfold. And if things go well, right now, tentatively, this same ship is tentatively scheduled 3 visits to Burgeo this summer.
Okay.
And of course, that's based on being able to fill the the burst type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And of course, they want to make sure that there's a good product down here. So I think this is more like a feel-out trip with some journalists and people involved in tourism and this kind of stuff. And hopefully we can put our best foot forward and attract people down here.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it for now. It's certainly great to come in here on a monthly basis to be able to update. And again, I've said it before, but I don't mind really, I guess, reiterating it that, our office is here for the residents of this community, whether it's business development or some community initiative through the volunteer organizations that they might have, or various ideas of how to enhance the overall economic picture of the community. We're here to assist by whatever means and ways possible. So, I mean, our door's always open, albeit some people might come by sometimes and look like the door is closed and in a meeting or whatever, but certainly all you got to do, and the best way I tell people to handle is, phone and make an appointment, and that way you're guaranteed to get in. And if I put it in the schedule, then unless something major comes up, then we get the opportunity to speak, right? But certainly the door is open, and we encourage people within the community, if they've got any ideas or anything dealing with just community enhancement, let alone economic development, because it's all part and parcel.
Sure.
To use our offices.
Well, we thank you very much for coming over, and it was quite informative.
Thank you.
Now over to Mayor Ann and the Council report.
Good evening. Burgeo Town Council held its regular council meeting on Wednesday, May the 16th. Items up for discussion. Item number 1, the usual, was the fish plant. As of the time of our meeting, there still was no reply with regard to our request for crab and shrimp, and in response to our visit to Ottawa. However, we did have a reply from Mr. Dhaliwal regarding a letter I wrote him in March, I believe it was, concerning, at that time, it was proposed that there might be a shrimp allocation given to the province of Quebec. The letter was, as usual, what we get back. However, in that letter, Mr. Dhaliwal did point out that they have requests now for 70,000 metric ton of shrimp. That's what the request is covering off. So there's quite a number of requests from, it seems like, every man, woman, and child and dog. But however, he did say that our request is being considered. That was the reply from one letter. Then I wrote a letter again to Mr. Dhaliwal only a week ago, and that was in regard to where he extended the allocation of shrimp to Prince Edward Island. And that letter was acknowledged from Ottawa from Mr. Brian Tobin, Minister Brian Tobin's office. And we didn't get a written reply from Mr. Tobin's office, but the Town Council did receive a call from his office advising that they were in receipt of my letter, and Mr. Tobin would be giving it his full consideration. And also we received a letter from Mr. Jerry Reid, the Provincial Minister of Fisheries, who was also copied my letters. And Mr. Reid pointed out that he had had a meeting with Mr. Dhaliwal in which he brought Burgeo to the forefront. So as it stands right now, I don't know where we can go. We're pushing every button we can push, and we've just got to wait and see what the final reply will be from Mr. Dhaliwal's office regarding our request for shrimp. A whole car wrecks around town. I believe I informed you that the contractor who we had anticipated would come in and clean up the wrecks. That sort of fell through. However, there's a new contractor in town, in Newfoundland, and it's known as Municipal Recyclers Limited. And they've signed a contract with us. They've paid us $50 to come in and collect the car wrecks. And they're estimating that they will be in Burgeo on June the 15th. And they hopes to be taking care of all of the wrecks and material of that type on the West Coast. So hopefully we've taken care of that for a few years to come. Council did some discussing with regard to the playground, the fence area, especially along the main street, and also with regard to the two courts, that's the basketball and the tennis court. And after much discussing and so on, it was moved and seconded that we would appropriate $15,000 to bring the two courts up to proper standards, as close as we can get them, and also replace the fencing along the front of the road there. So we'll be seeing some improvements with regard to the playground. We had a request from BDDB requesting the council to exempt the coastal growers from municipal taxes for the year 2000-2001. This was a lengthy discussion, and this type of business, being it's more of an experimental, developmental type business, it is not owned. It is, at this time, everything there is owned by BDDB. And it's felt that this will move into the commercial stage in the year 2002, and at which time, as soon as it makes this transition from developmental into transition from an experimental business into a commercial business, then they should be held liable for taxes. So, given that the Burgeo Town Council approved the tax exemption for the year 2000-2001, and it was done on the basis more or less to stimulate and try bring new business into Burgeo, and that's business of the type that is not competitive with other type of businesses, and businesses that we hope will go on to employ more people in our town. Recreation Commission. The town manager updated us on how the Recreation Commission was set up, and with regard to the arena thing and so on. So council, after being brought right up to speed on how the commission started and so on, it was agreed that we would write the Recreation Commission, thank them for their work over the years, accept their resignations. Bonnie Cole Janes will audit the accounts of the Recreation Commission. The funds will come back into the hands of council and will be held for recreation purposes. What will happen from here after that's all been taken care of, no one knows. Whether there be another rec commission set up or whether council will have to spend the funds as best they see to improve recreation facilities in Burgeo, I don't know. That's decisions which will come at a later date. However, as of this time, Burgeo do not have a recreation commission. If there's people interested in recreation in the community, maybe their views would be good for council to know. However, that's where this stands at the present time, and it's too bad that the Rec Commission is gone and that things turned out the way they did. However, life goes on, and hopefully that somewhere down the road that this Recreation Commission thing can be put into proper focus and more recreation facilities will be brought to Burgeo. On Tuesday, there will be a cruise ship visiting Burgeo. This will be the first trip. There's not very much information on the trip at the present time. Apparently the boat is coming out of St. Pierre and making several stops along the south coast. The tourism committee is going to, I think, go out as far as they can go with regarding the hospitality which will be extended to this trip. And no doubt they will evaluate this trip, and from that they will decide which way they will go from there. So therefore on Tuesday there's supposed to be a small cruise ship, I believe only about 60 people, which should visit Burgeo for 2 to 3 hours. And hopefully that they'll leave behind some money in our town. Council have declared the week of May the, let me see now, the week declared is Monday, May the 21st to Friday, June the 1st, as a clean-up 2 weeks in our town. Details on pickups and so on will be on Channel 10. So well, I would encourage everyone to get out and clean up their property, and the town will do the best they can to see that it's picked up and taken to the dump. And regarding cleanup, it was brought up, and councillors were unanimous in their support of the cleanup, which the Burgeo Bears recently did. They did a bang-up job. They're to be commended, and I really do thank them on behalf of the Burgeo Town Council. It was a great job which they did, and council felt that just to send a letter of thanks or to send an appreciation certificate was not enough for the fantastic job which they did. Therefore, the town manager will be contacting Ms. Tucker, and we'll see if there's some way we can appreciate what the Bears did, and those people who helped the Bears as well, in some way that we can give a donation or maybe treat them to a little snack of some type, or whatever Ms. Tucker feels would be the appropriate thing to do. So once again, I would say thank you to the Burgeo Bears. The fire department, our fire department is in the process of upgrading their clothing. $15,000, $7,500 from the provincial government and $7,500 from their own funds has been used this year to purchase a total of $15,000 worth of new firefighting clothing. And it'll take about another $15,000 to bring the department right up. So therefore they will be starting to raise funds toward this. And the Burgeo Town Council have committed that they would match them dollar for dollar up to a maximum of $3,750, so that the fire department can have the proper clothing. No doubt this won't come about until probably next year, as then that money will be used to match probably the provincial government in the year 2002 on a dollar-for-dollar basis and turn the $7,500 again once more into $15,000. Regarding the water shut off on Tuesday, it didn't prove a big lot. Our town was consuming 137 to 292 gallons per minute. That's 137 to 292 gallons per minute. That was supposedly with everybody with their water shut off. So what you see there is 8,220 gallons to 17,520 gallons per hour being put through our system when supposedly everybody had their taps turned off. So it didn't tell us a thing. I'm sure there was some people who did cooperate, and to those people we really say thank you. There were some people who didn't. It was very plain. It was taken notice of that some people decided to wash their car during that period. So, you know, how much more blatant can you be than that? So therefore the engineers, we've decided that, you know, we've got to take a different approach. This problem has got to be tackled. Right now, the engineers have got to allocate in the funding for the new system. They've got to bring out, they had to estimate $350,000 to $400,000 to put in an extra filtering tank in case the Burgeo fish plant should reopen. You know, you're talking $500,000 just because people are running taps. You know, this shouldn't have to be. Anybody can see someone having to run water maybe in December, January, February, or something like that. But, you know, you don't have to run your water in May, June, July, and August. And it is going on, make no word about it. I mean, from the tests we did there on Tuesday, the engineers were convinced that it's not a leak, that it is the running of taps. So in that regard, we've got to try it from a different angle, and the angle which, of course, the only option that's left open now to the engineers is that starting real soon, they've got a plan of attack drawn up whereby nighttime they will be identifying, they'll turn off certain areas, and after doing that, they will identify the problem areas within our town. Now this will take place after 12 o'clock in the night, maybe after 2 o'clock in the morning. So the step one, they'll identify the problem areas for running water, and after the area have been identified, then they move into phase two, which is identifying the properties which are running water. And everything they're telling me that they got no problem in doing that. It's just a case of identifying the areas that's the most problems. Then with this ITIC equipment, sort of a hydro sounding equipment, by going onto the fire hydrants and the curb stops, they can identify which ones are being used and which ones that aren't being used, or that water is being run and so on. So after identifying, of course, getting it brought right down to which properties are running water, well then council will have to take the next step as to what we're going to do about that. So, you know, it is the month of May, and save everybody a lot of trouble. It's time to screw the ball back on the toilet, in the toilet tank, and shut off the valve that's going out in the sewer pipe. And if the seat has gone on the valve, then get yourself a new valve and do yourself, your town, and everybody a favor. Dog regulations, the town manager tabled a new set of dog regulations. Council will be considering those regulations at a later meeting. But I must say, from our observations and from the complaints coming into the town office, there seems to have been a drastic cut in the number of dogs that's been roaming. In fact, very seldom do you see a dog, and I really would like to thank the people for that. And I also would like to thank the RCMP. Apparently they have issued quite a few tickets, and so on regarding dogs roaming, so that seems to be coming under control. And that's it for council for this week. Thank you.
Stay with us for Off the Rack, the community events, and the BBS Playbill, all after this.
Dear Mrs. Coleman, you don't know me, but I know you know my old red house at the end of the lane. Please forgive me for tracking you down, but I had to thank you. I'm not sure what inspired your kindness, but oh, it's a godsend. Since my wretched hip surgery, just getting to the end of the lane and back takes nearly half an hour, and sometimes the pain just isn't worth it. You brought me something much more important than newspapers. You brought me the understanding that it's the small, the simple things that really help people.
If you're doing just a little, you're helping a lot. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Off the Rack. This week, as we scanned our tape rack, we came across a tape of scenes of Burgeo taken by the Communications for Survival. Let's take a look.
Good evening and welcome to the community event segment of tonight's broadcast. I'm Jennifer Marks. The winners of the men's ball team TV bingo on Wednesday, May 16th were Ted Anderson, Rex Han, Lottie Mercer, Shane Domine, Donna Mead, and Millie Durnford. Congratulations. The winners of the LOA baskets of towels were Max Collier, Violet Sims, Mary Foote, Yvonne Power, Joy Blagden, and Rose Young. Congratulations to you all. The Gaudy movement still have Girl Guide cookies available. If you would like to purchase cookies, please contact any Guider in the movement. Cookies cost $3. Volunteers are needed to canvass the town for the Salvation Army's Red Shield Appeal. If you have some spare time and are interested in helping with this worthwhile cause, please contact Verley Domine at 886-2947. We would really appreciate your help and support. If your group or organization has an upcoming event plan, we will be happy to advertise it for you. Just call the BBS office by Wednesdays of each week to have items included in this portion of our broadcast. That concludes the community event segment of tonight's broadcast. See you next week.
BBS Playbill. Tune in on Tuesday for a rebroadcast of Pansy's Garden. Join Pansy and the gang again for 2 stories of craft and lots of fun on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on Pansy's Garden. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. Next week's program will be followed by The Bandwagon. For This Week in Review, I'm Marie Rose. Good night and God bless.